We begin the Gemara today at the beginning of Daf Lamed Daled Amud Aleph. Uman Hai Tana. So this Gemara is going to explain the Mishnah that we learned before at the end of Lamed Gimel Lamed Beis, where it spoke about a case of Shtei, or rather Shnayim, Shekitchu Shtei Noshim. And the case here is that you have two brothers that were Mekadosh, two sisters, and then when it came to the time of Knisa L'Chuppah, they switched their wives. And the Mishnah then says the case also is that the women were nidus. In such a case, you'd be chayiv for 4 different isurim. There's an eishes ish, then it's your brother's wife, eishes ach, and then because these are sisters, so now you also for each one for achais ishtay, and also for the fact that it's a nida. So here, in this case, this brings us back to the sugya that we learned about before, which is the concept of ein iser, chalal iser. Once one iser takes effect, then a second iser can't take effect on it. And we had the exceptions that we learned before in the sugya, 3 different scenarios. One is when it's a iser meisif, the other is an iser kailol, or if it's a iser bevasachas, as we learned before, and we'll see it here again, how this would apply to our Mishnah. Dr. Gemara, so who is the Tana of our Mishnah that since he holds it over here, one iser is chal on another and yechai for all 4? So it must be that he holds Issa Kailul, that in a case where the second Issa that's Chal, that takes effect, is Issa Kailul, and also Issa Maisif, when there's Issa Maisif, and also an Issa Basachas, that all these 3 are reasons why the second Issa could take effect. So Rashi here explains, when you look in our Mishnah, so you'll see how you have all these 3 different scenarios. So first of all, when it comes to the Issa of Eishes Ish and Eishes Achiv, that it's your brother's wife, those 2 Yisurim take effect at the same moment. The moment he's Mekadosh, his wife, she becomes an Eishes Ish, and also Eishes Achiv. Then when it comes to the Isser of Achais Ishtay, this is Isser Kailul. Now that you were Mekadosh a sister, so you become Usser not only to this woman for bringing an Eishes Ish and your brother's wife, but you also Usser to all other sisters. So it's the same Isser. We're not adding more to the Isser, to more people that become Usser to her, but you're including more sisters in this Isser. That's Isser Kailul. And then you have Isser Maisiv regarding the last one, actually the 4th one, which is Isser Nida. Because over here, the Isser Nida, until this woman was a Nida, she was mutter to her husband. Now you're adding to the Isser that she's going to be Usser even to her husband. That's the Isser Maisiv. So the fact that the Mishnah says that Yechaya for all 4 means that the Mishnah holds that when one Isser is Chal on another Isser, and there's a Isser Kailul, or a Isser Maisif, or a Isser, the 2 Yisurim will Chal at the same time, the Isser can take effect. So who is the Tana that holds of all of these exceptions? Amar Rav Yehuda says, Amar Rav, the name of Rav Meir, we find that Rav Meir says this. Rashi here points out, or actually the Taisus Yishanim is the one that points this out, that really we already had before in the Gemara, that the Gemara said according to Rav Yaisi, that Rav Yaisi holds that if it's the Isser, all these 3 things, Isser Kailul, Isser Maisif, Isser Basachas, that you chayav twice. But Rav Yaisi didn't say it clearly. Over here, the Gemara wants to bring a source of Rav Meir. Rav Meir said this clearly. The Tanan, the Gersa here is, we learned in the Mishnah, Yesh Oichel Achila Achas, there's a case of a person that eats one Achila, and v'chayev aleh arba chatois, and he's chayev 4 karbanis chatos ve'osham echad, and a 5th thing, he's chayev 1 karban osham. What's the case? Tomei she'achal chaylev, a person that's tomei, and he eats the fats, which are aser, but it's also v'hu neiser, min hamukdashin, and it's also leftovers of a carbon after the time that it's supposed to be eaten, or after the time that it's supposed to be burnt in the mizbeach, and b'yoyim hakipurim. And this takes place on Yom Kippur. So that's 4 karbanis chatos and 1 karban osham. So as Rashi explains, in these cases, you have over here Issa Kailul and Issa Maisif. And also Issa Kailul and Issa Maisif. So what's the first Issa that takes effect there? The first Issa is the Issa Chaylev. From the moment the behemoth is born, it has Chaylev, certain fats in the body of the behemoth that are forbidden to eat. That's the first Issa. Now, if you eat this chaylev, there's another issa that was added over here when it was made kachim. When it's made kachim, now you can't have any hana of it. The issa of chaylev is only a issa that you're not allowed to eat the chaylev. But now, when you makdish it, you're not allowed to have any benefit, any hana of the kachim. That's a issa meisif. You're adding another element, another type of issa here, not only achila, but also hana. That's when you get to the fact that it became kachim. Similar regarding noisar, it's also a issa maisiv, because until this point it was allowed to be eaten, or it's allowed to be burnt in the mizbeach, and now because it became noisar, there's another aspect of issa that's added here, the fact that it can't be burnt in the mizbeach. That's a new issa that you're adding here, and that's issa maisiv. Then, when you have the fourth issa over here that he mentions, which is the fact that he became tameh. What happens when you become tameh? So the same issa, it doesn't add another degree or another level of issa. It's the same issa, but there's an issa kailul here. Now that this kayin or this person is tameh, he is not going to be allowed to eat any kachim. Not only this piece of chaylev that he ate now, but that disqualifies him of eating any kachim. So because of the tumah, it includes, it's kailul, any other kachim as well, in the very same issa. So it's not a issa maisiv, but it's a issa kailul. Okay, so that's where you have the issa kailul and issa maisiv here in these cases. Okay, and also regarding the me'ilah, as I mentioned. Now Rab Meir comes and asks to this. Rab Meir says, in Moiseh Shabbos, if he's eating this on Shabbos v'yitziyah b'fiv, and he's walking out from the Rosh Hashanah into the Rosh Hashanah, so he was over on the Isser of Yitzah, of carrying out into the Rosh Hashanah on Shabbos, chayiv, he's going to be chayiv yet for another chiyav chatas for the malacha of Yitzah. So what happened over here is, as he's walking out, when he comes out into the Rosh Hashanah, that's when he ate it and that's when he swallowed it. So the moment he swallows it, that's the completion of the malacha of Yitzah. The completion of the malacha of Yitzah is the hanacha, when it rests, when it goes down into a place that it rests, and that's when he swallows it. So if he swallowed it as he walked out, when it was Yom Kippur, also Shabbos, he'll be chayiv also for the Yitzah. Now, you may think, why does he have to add the fact that if it's Shabbos, the issur of carrying out is also on Yom Kippur? But Rashi says, even though that's the way we paskin, but that's not Rab Meir's opinion. The Gemara explains, not here, but in another place, that Rab Meir's opinion is that there's no issur to carry out on Shabbos. Now this case, this last issur that Rab Meir adds over here, that you'd be chayiv for Haitzah as well, this is a case where you have two isurim that are taking effect bevasachas. The issur of eating on Yom Kippur, and the issur of carrying out, if it's Shabbos, so Shabbos and Yom Kippur enter at the exact same moment. So these are two Yisurim that begin bevasachas. So here, what do we see? That in this case, Rab Meir's opinion is that you have issur kailul, issur maisiv, issur bevasachas, and it takes effect, the new issur takes effect. So this is the source of Rab Meir's opinion. Now what does it say weiter there in the Braise? Amrullah, they said to Rab Meir, Einem and Hashem. This last issur you're adding here about carrying out is not part of the same issur, because we're talking about a person being chayiv these different chatois for eating, and you're adding something else that's not related to eating at all. It's carrying. So why are you bringing this in over here? Okay, there's a discussion about what Rab Meir answers to this question that the Rabbanan asked him, but the Gemara here doesn't bring it. The Gemara discusses a different aspect of Rab Meir's opinion here. What Rab Meir is saying over here is that a person was eating this and he thought that he's doing a mitzvah. We're talking over here about a situation where a person thinks that he's eating kachim and he thinks he's doing a mitzvah, but it turns out that he's tameh or that it's not a mitzvah for all these different reasons over here, and therefore he would be chayiv a karban chatas. Now, the Gemara here is going to introduce a concept that we learned about before a few times. When a person is tayyib b'dvar mitzvah, he thinks he's doing a mitzvah, but really he's not fulfilling the mitzvah. So the question is, would he be chayav a karban chatas if he was only doing it because he made a mistake thinking that he's doing a mitzvah? Now, there's a situation of a tayyib b'dvar mitzvah where he thought he's doing a mitzvah and he actually ends up doing a mitzvah, but there's still a chiyav chatas here. In that case, so tayyib b'dvar mitzvah is not chayav chatas. Here we're talking about a situation where the person thinks he's doing a mitzvah, but in reality he did not end up doing a mitzvah. Would he be chayav chatas in such a case? So let's see what the Gemara says. Rab Meir over here is going according to whose opinion? Rabbi Yeshua, is he following Rabbi Yeshua's opinion? Ha'amar, Rabbi Yeshua says, mitzvah, a person that makes a mistake thinking that he's doing a mitzvah, and in reality he did not do the mitzvah, potter, but he's still potter from a karban chatos because he thought he's doing a mitzvah. Now the case as Rabbi Meir is speaking about, Rabbi Yeshua rather, is speaking about, as we'll see in a moment in the Gemara, is regarding a person that has two babies to make a bris for them. One of them, the bris, is supposed to be on Shabbos. That's the 8th day. The other baby, the bris is supposed to be on Sunday. And he confused the two, and he made the bris of the baby that's supposed to be on Sunday on Shabbos. He did not do a mitzvah, because the bris is before the time, before the 8th day. Even in such a case, Rabbi Yeshua says he's potter. So over here as well, because he's being tayyib dvar mitzvah, when the person is eating the kachim, so why would he be chayiv a karban chatas? Says the Gemara, you're right, Ella aliba de Rabbi Eliezer. Rab Meir is saying what he said according to Rabbi Eliezer. It says that in such a case, since you didn't actually do a mitzvah, you are chayiv a chatas. Or the Gemara gives another answer, or I could tell you that Rabbi Yeshua's opinion does not apply here. What Rabbi Meir says could follow Rabbi Yeshua's opinion as well. Ki ka'amar Rabbi Yeshua, when did Rabbi Yeshua say that tab dvar mitzvah, potter, that if you made a mistake and you thought you're doing a mitzvah, you'd be potter from a chatos, hanem mili gabitinaikis. That's the case of, like I said, the two babies, of one for Shabbos and one for Sunday. You mistakenly made the bris of the Sunday baby on Shabbos. Why? Why is that an exception? There's manei bohol, because over there he's pressed for time that the bris has to be on a specific day. There's a time frame for the mitzvah, so over there a person is could get easily confused or easier confused about what he's doing, so that's why over there he's not chayav achatas. Aval hai, over here where we're talking about a mitzvah where there's no time frame for this. So actually, let me go back to explain this again. I said before that we were talking, the Gemara's question over here was regarding Rab Meir eating kachim, but as Rashi here explains, it's actually talking about the case of the Mishnah, where it talks about the person that had the relation with this woman, that there were 4 isurim on her. And it's not something which is isurim that are related to any time frame. And still we say that he was taught b'dvar mitzvah. He thought he's doing a mitzvah and getting married, but nevertheless, really, he was doing an aveda. So over here, because there's no zmanei bol, it doesn't have any time frame. Kivin dein zmanei bol, so since he's not getting confused because of the time that he's rushing for this, so maybe over here, Rabbi Yeshua would agree that he would be chayav a karban chatas for this. Fragt the Gemara, how could you make this distinction according to Rabbi Yeshua's opinion? That it depends if he's rushing because there's a time frame or not. Here's a case of trumeh, the mitzvah of eating trumeh, which does not have a time frame, and he's not rushing for this. And here, Rabbi Yeshua says that he would be potter because if he thinks he's doing a mitzvah, we learned in the Mishnah, a kayin was eating trumeh. Then he finds out that he's a ben grusha and he's not supposed to eat this trumah. So what's the halacha here? Rabbi Eliezer says because he didn't do a mitzvah by eating this trumah, he's chayiv to pay the principal and an additional 5th. Rabbi Yeshua says because he thought he's doing a mitzvah, so he'll be potter. So what do you see over here? That according to Rabbi Yeshua, even in a case where he thinks he's doing a mitzvah and there's no time frame for this, he's not rushed, he's still potter. Says the Gemara, not necessarily. What's the case there? Ha'itma Allah, on that case there, it says, Amarav Bevi Barabaye, Hacha betrume be'erev Pesach askinon. Here we're talking about a kohen that's eating the truma on erev Pesach, and this truma is chametz, and he's rushed and he's pressed for time to finish it before Pesach. And that's the case when Rabbi Yeshua says that if he thought he did a mitzvah and he's being rushed, he'll be potter. There's man abol, because over there he is pressed for time. Now the Gemara goes back to the Mishnah where it said that that a person would be chayiv for this case over here where you had a relation with these wives that were exchanged 4 different chatois, right? So again, the case was 2 brothers that married 2 sisters, and you're going to be chayiv for eshes ish, for the fact that it's your brother's wife, which is eshes achiv, and also for achais ishtay, they were sisters, and also for the fact that she was a nida. So who holds that you can be chayiv for all of these cases, even though you have one isser taking effect on another isser? Says the Gemara, be'isser bas achas. In the Mishnah, it's speaking about that all these 4 isurim took effect at the same time. And this follows even the opinion of Rab Shimon, that Rab Shimon agrees that in the case where they all take effect at the same time, it takes effect. There's no issue of isser chalal isser. So now the Gemara will try to explain here, wait a minute, how could you have all these 4 isurim taking effect at the same time? Regarding the three of the 4 isurim, you could find that it's possible that they all take effect at the same time. So again, what 3 isurim is the Gemara speaking about? Eshes ish, eshes achiv, and achais ishtay. Those 3 isurim, you could explain how they take effect at the same time. What happened there? The shavinu shliach, v'shavu ina shliach. What happened is these two brothers appointed one shliach to go and give money for the kiddushin, and the two sisters appointed a shliach to receive the money for the kiddushin. So in that one moment that the shliach of the two brothers gives the kesef kiddushin to the shliach of the two sisters, at that moment the three yisurim take effect: eishes ish, eishes achiv, and achais ishtay. Upaga shliach b'shliach, one shliach meets the other shliach, and it takes effect at the same moment. Ela nidais, but when it comes to the fourth issa, which is that both of these women are nidais, how could you have that take effect at the same moment when the other yisurim took effect? Answers the Gemara, a very unique case. Amar Rav Amram, Amar Rav. The case over here is that both the brothers and the sisters were ketanim or ketanais, and they were coming bar and bas mitzvah right here now at this moment. And the case over here, let's sort of first see it in the words of the Gemara, and then I'll explain it the way Rashi explains exactly what the case here is. So the case is b'sheifas ois, that is, when they both already begin seeing the blood, they're flowing with the blood, which makes them a nida. Gimel la'achash leisha osar. So the case over here is that the two husbands that are having a relation with these women, so the women began seeing blood to be a nida before they became 13 years old, a day before, and it continued into the day when they became 13 years old. Lechiyuv inu. That's to explain how they would become chayiv at the same time when they became 13 years old. And also, mitoich shnei masar, la'acha shnei masar, and the same is regarding these two women, the sisters. When they both became nidais on the same time. And when is this? Right before they became 12 years old, and they continued seeing the blood of being a nida when they became 12 years old, l'chiyuvi ini, to explain how these two are being chayiv at the exact same moment. So Rashi expands the case here and explains more of the details of what's going on, and Rashi gives a mashal of Erev Rosh Hashanah and Rosh Hashanah. And basically you're going to have to say what the case over here is. We're talking about two brothers that are twins. They were born on the same day on Rosh Hashanah, and we're talking about two sisters that are also twins. They were also born on the same day on Rosh Hashanah. Okay, so they're all are becoming bar and bas mitzvah, and on the same year. So the brothers are becoming 13 on this Rosh Hashanah, and the sisters are becoming 12 on this Rosh Hashanah. Now what happened? On Erev Rosh Hashanah, these girls began seeing blood, becoming a nida. And now on Erev Rosh Hashanah, the two brothers sent the shliach to be mekadesh these two sisters with the condition that the kiddushin should take effect the next day. And now on the next day, which is that night, when they all four of them become bar and bas mitzvah, at that moment the kiddushin takes effect, and also at that moment the fact that they are nida, the isser of nida, also takes effect because they just became bas mitzvah. So therefore over here you have the kiddushin and the isser of nida that takes effect at the same moment. So the isser of eishes ish, the isser of eishes achiv, and achais isha, and nida all takes effect at the same moment. That's where the Mishnah was saying that the chayav for. Going back to the Mishnah, it said in the Mishnah, Mafrishin Naisam, that after this exchange happened here, so now they have to be separated from their husband for 3 months, and after that they can go back to their husband. Frek the Gemara, what's the concern? Why are we separating them? Because we want to know if there's a baby born, is this baby from that relationship, or is it from something later? So we have to determine that. But Frek the Gemara, but va'ein isha misaberes b'bir rishayna. We know that a woman cannot become pregnant from just one relation. So why would it be necessary to separate them after this one relation? What happened over here is that the exchange of the wives with the husbands, they had a relation once and a second time. So therefore now you have to separate them. But if that's the case, what did the Rab Chia say regarding this Mishnah? Because you have 4 isurim for 4 different people, so that's 16 karbanas chatas that have to be brought in total. But now, if they had relations twice, so then tlasn v'tartan avin, so you have to double that, which should be 32, not 16. Okay, now based on your question, according to your questioning, that because they had a relation a second time, it should be counted as 32. Rabbi Eliezer has a unique opinion about the Isser of Arayis, and he says, the Mechayiv al kol koyach v'koyach. Rabbi Eliezer says, by the bia, by the erve, when you're having a relation with an erve, so you're not chayiv just once for that bia, for that relation, but you're chayiv for every time there's another hana in the bia. Rashi over here brings that the halacha, according to Rabbi Eliezer, is that there's the knisa for the bia that is chayiv, and then when he goes out, there's another hana, so he's chayiv for that again. Rabbi Eliezer is mechayiv for every single koyach, every single hana that there is. So Tuva Havyin, according to Rabbi Eliezer, in our Mishnah, you should have to count many more karbanas chatas here. Elo, so what are you going to answer according to Rabbi Eliezer? B'koyach rishon kachashiv, the number that Rabbi Chia said, we're counting the first issa that was done here. That's all. We're not counting any additional ones that are thereafter. So you could answer here, even according to what we said, that they did, the relation was twice, we can say, bi rishon kachashiv, we're only counting the first relation. That's what Rabbi Chia said, 16. The Gemara here is going to discuss this that we just said, that there's this concept that a woman will not become pregnant from just one bia. So Rav asks Rav Nachman about this, and when it says here that a woman does not become pregnant from one bia, we're talking about the first bia, when she was a psula, if she was still a virgin, so the first bia, the first relation, will not make her pregnant. So the question is, but Tamar, we know that by Tamar, that she only had one relation with Yehuda, and from this she became pregnant with twins actually. So he answered him, no, Tamar, it was different, because be'etzba miyacha, she went and with her finger broke the blockage that there is, the hymen, that in order that she should be able to become pregnant the first time. Rabbi Yitzchak said, Kol moyachos shel beis Rebbe, those daughter-in-laws of the house of Rebbe, that they also broke the opening before they were able to get pregnant right away. So Tamar Shman, they gave them the name Tamar. V'lama nikra Shman Tamar. Why did they give them the name Tamar? Al shem Tamar shemiyacha betzba. Just like what Tamar did, that she broke the passageway, that she should be able to become pregnant right away at the first time. Now the Gemara goes back and asks on the whole question that we had here. What was our question? That Tamar became pregnant from Yehuda the first time. So the Gemara asks us this, wait a minute, was that the first time Tamar had relations with a husband? V'hahavu er v'oinan. Tamar was first married to Er, Yehuda's son, and then she was married to Oinan, and then they died, and then afterwards the story happened with Yehuda. So why are we even asking this question about Tamar, that when she had relation with Yehuda was the first time? Says the Gemara, the reason why we're saying this is because Er v'Oinan shimshu shaloi kedarkan. Er and Oinan, when they had relations with Tamar, it wasn't in the usual way. So therefore she was still a besula. That's why we asked the question before, how did she become pregnant from Yehuda the first time? So the Gemara asks on this from what it says in the Braisa. Meisve in the Braisa it says, Kol esrim v'arba chodesh, the first 24 months after a woman gives birth and she's still nursing a baby, so we don't want her to become pregnant within that time period, so that the baby that has to nurse in this time should not have milk. So therefore, the halacha is in this Braisa, Dash mi bifnim v'zayre mi b'chutz, that the husband is allowed to go inside and the bia, but then the zera he can leave outside in order for his wife not to become pregnant. That's Divrei Rabbi Eliezer. That's what Rabbi Eliezer says. But the Rabbanan argue in this, and they said to him, Amru Loi, they said to Rabbi Eliezer, you're not allowed to do this, because halalu eina ela kamaiser v'ainan. This doing like this would be exactly what Er and Oinan did, that they did not allow their zera to impregnate their wife. So how could you allow this? What's the point of the Gemara's question? You see over here, though, that the Braisa is saying that what did Er and Oinan do? They did. There was a real bia, even though the zera they left outside, but there was a bia. So how could you say that by Yehuda it was the first time? So the Gemara says, no, the Braisa didn't mean it was exactly like by Er and Oinan. It was similar to what Er and Oinan did, but not exactly the same as Er and Oinan. Similar to Er and Oinan, but it says by them, that they destroyed their zera, they did not allow their wives to become pregnant. But it's not exactly the same like Er v'Oinan, the ilu asam shaloi kedarka. By Er and Oinan, they had relations with their wife not in the normal way at all. And v'hacha kedarka. And here we're talking about a person that has relations in the normal way, even if afterwards he leaves the zera outside. Now the Gemara goes back to the story of and Einon itself, and the Gemara asks, Bishleima Einon. So we know regarding Einon that he did this. Tichsiv Bei V'shiches Arza. It said that he destroyed his Zera. Ela Minalan. How do we know that Er did this? It doesn't say it by Er. Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak. So he answers, Tichsiv Vayames Gam Oisai, that the Eibishter killed Er as well. What does it mean, Gam Oisai? Afhu Ba'isa Misemes. That the Eibishter killed him for the same reason, because he did like what Einon did. Fact the Gemara, Bishleima Einon. Now we understand why Einon did this. Einon was the second brother, so we understand why he wasn't interested in his wife becoming pregnant. Mishom loy yiyazara, because he said, this baby is not going to be mine. We're going to give him a name for my brother. It's not going to be my baby, so I'm not interested in my wife becoming pregnant. That's what the Gemara. That's what the pasuk describes. But Ela Er, my time of Adachi. Why did Er destroy the Zera and he did not want his wife to have any children? Says the Gemara, Kidei Shaloitis Aber v'Yakchish Yafa. He did not want his wife to become pregnant and she should lose her beauty. Taner Rabbanan, so connected to what we said over here regarding the fact that in the first bia, so you can't become pregnant, the Gemara brings another halacha here. It says in the pasuk Oisa. So the full pasuk here is actually a pasuk in this last week's parsha, benegayet to the halacha of the tumah of shichva zera. So the pasuk says, V'isha asher yishkav ish Oisa shichva zera v'rochzu b'mayim v'toma da'arev. That a man and a woman that have a relation with one another with shichva zera, so then they both become tummy. So it says Oisa. Oisa is an exclusion. Prat lekala, that comes to exclude the first relation with hakala. Nivrei Rabbi Yehuda. That's what Rabbi Yehuda says. The Chachamim say prat l'shaloi kedarka, that there's no tumah if the relation was not in the usual way. So the Gemara will now explain what's the reason why by a kala it should be different. Amalei Hain berei Rav Nachman. So Hain, the son of Rav Nachman, said to his father, what's the reason why a kala is different? Leime kasava Rabbi Yehuda. Does Rabbi Yehuda hold that a Torah chasal tachshite kala? That the Torah did not want to make a kala tamei because the Torah is being careful with the beauty of a kala. A kala adorns herself, she has makeup, and therefore if she has to go to the mikveh, so then it's gonna wash off, and therefore the Torah does not want her to become tameh. Is that the reason? Amalei, so Rav Nachman answered him, no, that's not the reason. It's connected to what we learned before. Because from the first bia she does not become pregnant, so this is not called shichva zera. It's not something that would make her pregnant, so therefore that's excluded from this tumah. Now the Gemara now explains the basis of this machlokes between Rabbi Yehuda and the Chachamim, whether we are going to exclude a kala or we only exclude shaloi kedarka. So what's their argument in the pasuk here? Rabbanan Savri, Rabbanan say, it says in the pasuk that it's the shichva zera that makes tumah. So that, when it says shichva zera prat lehara, that comes to exclude when there's only the beginning of the bia without the ending of it, without actual shichva zera. That's one thing you learn out. Then it says Oisa, with the word Oisa, another exclusion, Prat l'shalei kedarka. That comes to exclude when it's not the normal way of relations. Rabbi Yehuda's opinion is Shalei kedarka v'hara, both of these mishichva zera, nafke. They both are learned out from the same word, shichva zera. Then Oisa, when it says Oisa, another exclusion, Prat lekala. That comes to exclude a kala, which is the first relation, which you can't become pregnant from it. Talk to Gemara, another thing the Gemara teaches us over here regarding a woman that can't become pregnant. Kiyasa Rav and Amar Rabbi Yechanan, Kol sheshasa acha baila eseshanim, a woman that was married and then her husband died and she's for 10 years not married, vinisis, and then she gets married again after 10 years, shuven yeledes. She can't give birth again after waiting such a long time. Amar Rav Nachman, so Rav Nachman said about this, Lo yishanu ela she'ein daita lehinase. This is only said that during this time of that period of 10 years, it wasn't in her mind, she wasn't thinking about getting married anymore. But if she did have in mind to get married, so that's something that was there in her mind, she had a taiva for this to go and get married, misaberes, she will become pregnant. Rav said to the daughter of Rav Chisda, which was his wife, the Talmidei Chachamim are saying things about you. Why? Because apparently his wife was a almanah for 10 years, and he got married to her only after that, and he had children with her. So they were saying, how did she have children now after these 10 years? Amralei, so she said back to him, I had my mind, I was thinking about marrying you during this time period, so therefore I am still able to have children from you. Another story the Gemara says, the Asya Lakamei, the Rav Yosef. There's a woman that came to Rav Yosef. Amraloi, she said to Rav Yosef, Rabbi, I waited after my husband died for 10 years, and then I got remarried and I still had children. Amalei, Rav Yosef answered her, Biti, my daughter, don't say things that are spreading a rumor and disproving the things that Chachamim say. Chachamim know what they're talking about. Amralei, so she admitted and she told him, L'nachri nevalti. Yeah, you're right, I did in between have a relation with a guy. Or some actually say it doesn't mean literally a relation with a guy, but it means she had her thoughts on having a relation with a guy, and that's enough that she should be able to have children later.